Lesson 8: The Church in the Modern World. Introduction. From the darkness to light is the beginning of Renaissance. This was marked as a period of intellectual revolt and scientific advancement. The Renaissance is a period from the 14th to the 17th century, considered as the bridge between the Middle Ages modern history. It started as cultural movement in Italy in the late medieval period and later spread the rest of Europe. The 16th century was also marked as a period of intellectual revolt and scientific advancement. All the progress made by the inventions of the early 15th century provide a greater understanding of the universe by experiment and observation and led many intellectuals to be suspicious of teaching which could be not proven by observation. Galileo Galilei thought the Earth was not the center of the universe but the sun, based from the heliocentric theory of Nicholas Copernicus. Galileo was brought to trial by the church and forced to deny this teaching. In the succeeding centuries, the culture initiated by science was distorted by some men who elevated human reason as the sole measure of truth against the exercise of authority given by the Catholic Church.
Era of Enlightenment. The ideas of the Enlightenment, which emphasized science and reason over faith and superstition, strongly influenced the American colonies in the 18th century. Enlightenment was known as the Age of Reason, was an intellectual and cultural movement in the 18th century. Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke, Isaac Newton, and Voltaire questioned accepted knowledge and spread new ideas about openness, investigation, and religious tolerance throughout Europe and America. It is considered a major turning point in Western civilization. These are the several ideas dominated Enlightenment thoughts are the following: rationalism, empiricism, progressivism. The three goals of rational humanity were considered to be knowledge, freedom, and happiness.
Rene Descartes is a mathematician, natural scientist, and philosopher, also a metaphysician. Also the person to use reason to show the existence of God. He used his works to show that reason can prove everything and that faith is not needed. Some of his works were the Principles of Philosophy, Passions of the Soul, and Treatise of Man. His followers were called rationalists, believed that all truths could be achieved by reason alone. Till this day, Rene Descartes' achievement spread throughout the world and is one of the greatest parts of history, and especially till now.
The First Vatican Council was convened in the 1869, which was led by Pope Pius IX. On the Second Vatican Council, the Pope during the Second World War was Pope Pius XII. Angelo Roncalli was chosen to be the transitional pope, and he took the name John XXIII. On January 25, 1959, he announced his intention to call a council of all the bishops. The Second Vatican Council began on October 11, 1962, so when John XXIII died on June 6, 1963, Paul VI was elected as Cardinal on June 23, 1963.
The Greatest Ecumenical Council held by the Church for the following reasons. First, it had the greatest number of delegates with 2,600 bishops from all over the world and the additional participation of theologians and experts. Second, it was greatly represented in terms of nations and cultures. Third, it was the first council to include the presence of non-Catholics, lay participants as guests and observers of the council. Fourth, it was the first to utilize the gift of modernization, like the modern means of communication and transportation. Lastly, it emphasized promotion of peace and unity among nations, not the usual pattern in an ecumenical council, which usually focused on condemnation of heretics or formulation of doctrines.
So now we have the Council produced 16 documents. First is the Four Constitutions, which is the Dogmatic Constitution of the Church, or Lumen Gentium, the Pastoral Constitution of the Church in the Modern World, or Gaudium et Spes, the Dogmatic Constitution on Divine Revelation, or Dei Verbum, and the Constitution on Sacred Liturgy, or Sacrosanctum Concilium. Next is we have the 9 decrees. The decree on priestly ministry, the decree on Eastern Catholic Churches, the decree on bishops' pastoral office, the decree on church missionary activity, the decree on appropriate renewal of religious life, the decree on instruments of social communication, the decree on ecumenism, the decree on the ministry and the life of laity, and the decree of apostolate of the laity. Finally, we have the three declarations, which is the Declaration on Non-Christian Religions, the Declaration on Religious Freedom, and the Declaration on Christian Education. That's all. Thank you.
For the conclusion about the Church in the modern world, even with the disagreement on certain scientific findings, the condemnation against secularism and atheism, and the need to adopt the signs of the times in the modern world, the Church truly proved herself as Ecclesia Semper Reformanda. Like every person who advances in age and gradually acquires knowledge and increases wisdom, the Catholic Church, though imperfect, has remained firmly committed in its mission of bringing Jesus Christ to all. She has recognized the goodness of the modern world and its role in the task of evangelization and celebrated the inherent unity that binds all men and women, regardless of ideological, social, or religious variations. The great changes that enabled the Catholic Church to widely open its door to all. More than 50 years after Vatican II, we are given the task to support the Church in its mission. Let us not forget that the true measure of our understanding lies in its translation into our own perspective, attitude, decision, and action, expressed in the way we relate with our neighbors, Christians and non-Christians, for we too are persons always in need of reform.